Appreciate everyone coming out. My name is John. This is the Beskar Bucket. This is something else for me. So I started this podcast about a little over 6 months ago, and already at Celebration. So this is definitely surreal for me. But Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Hinton. I also do a podcast with John on Wednesdays called the Inflatable Falcon. And my daughter Zoe in the back is Star Wars Geek Girl. She does a podcast called Star Wars Geek Girl. And John asked me to be a guest, so I was honored to be a guest. I've never been on a podcast stage, even though my daughter has done 4 panels at Celebration, but she never asked me. So.
But, well, the reason I asked Mike to be up here was because, without you, none of this would happen. So a little bit of backstory with Mike and myself. We met the way that you tell your kids to never talk to anybody, to never meet anyone.
Yeah, kids, don't listen.
Yeah, we met through TikTok, so hold your judgment. But we met back in, I think, April of 2021.
Something like that. Yeah, it seems longer than that, but yes.
Right. But we met through TikTok, and then from there we just became fast friends, and then we started the Inflatable Falcon in February of 22, and then my first show here was in May of 22. So.
Right. And we met on TikTok because he did Mandalorian armor, and I do Star Wars stuff. So just so it was Star Wars related meeting.
Right. It wasn't just by chance. It was a common interest at least. So.
And then John's show, he does like an interview show based on like almost if you play Dungeons and Dragons, based on like in the pub of a Dungeons and Dragons scene. So his podcast and interviewing is very, very good.
Yeah, typically when you listen to the show, there is like tavern music behind it. So couldn't quite get that here today, but we did the best we could. So. But yeah, so the Beskar Bucket, the whole inspiration behind it was if you've ever seen The Lord of the Rings, the prancing pony. So I always thought the adjective noun, that was kind of the basis for the naming pattern here. So, but yeah, if it wasn't for Mike, I would have never started a podcast. I really wouldn't do many of the things that I do in Star Wars today. So I'm beyond appreciative for that.
I badger people a lot.
That's true.
I'm happy I met John. In our podcast, we talk about, ours is more nonsensical. We don't follow a script. But John's seems much better. So hopefully, like today, we're going to talk about a lot of your firsts.
Yeah, this is definitely a first for me. So this is my first celebration in general. So Mike has always gone on about how much he loves going to Celebration, especially because we're both in the 501st, which, again, if he hadn't badgered me to do it, I wouldn't be in the 501st. So this is my first celebration, and he always told me, like, oh, put in for your podcast, and you need to go to Celebration, all that jazz. But so this is what
This is only my 4th.
Is 4th?
Yes.
So what was your first celebration, though?
First celebration was Celebration Orlando. Anyone here go to Celebration Orlando? Okay. So that was my first celebration. Zoe got a panel, and we went. So, yes. And anyone that knows, when you look at the crowds, like people are listening to this, and you'll see pictures, that's just Celebration. The plus side to the crowd is everyone in that crowd you have something in common with. It might be annoying sometime. Like yesterday, John, myself, and Zoe, we lined up at 4 a.m. to get into the queue line to have a possibility of getting into a panel. So from 4 a.m. to 11 a.m., we met new people. I met someone from Hawaii. I met someone from Alaska. So there's like 2 states that I'll probably never go to. Maybe, but... So
yeah, our Hawaiian friend here. This is the one. That's the reason for the Ray buns here.
Now remember, this is an audio podcast too.
Well, there's video. You can check out the video. It'll be on YouTube, and plus, obviously, those of you who are actually here in person see the ridiculous hairstyle for me. So, but yeah, so Star Wars is all about bringing people together, and that's no more true than the two of us here on this stage. If it hadn't been for Star Wars, we would have never met. And we talked about it on the Inflatable Falcon. Star Wars is all about found family, and I've found this great family. Myself, Mike, our other co-host on the Inflatable Falcon, Ken, Zoe, Safi, our friend Marty, and all of the other people that we know specifically through Star Wars.
So let's talk about this specific celebration. You can come in. Oh, he looked at me and turned close.
Scaring people away.
Yeah. So with this specific celebration, and the specific, I don't know, what would be the theme that you see going through this celebration? If there is a theme, there might not be a theme.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it feels like this is a lot of different people from around the world coming together. I mean, I feel like with the celebrations that are in the States, you get a lot of Americans and then a handful of international people, but this is all over the world from what I've noticed.
It does feel, this celebration feels very unifying. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys, maybe we're all at that tired stage. How many people in here have been all here since Fridays? Anyone that's been here? Yeah, we're all at that okay, we've only been sleeping 3 hours and eating probably the worst food we've eaten in a while. So we're all at that tired stage. But it does seem happy, other than when we get turned down from a panel, then you have a little sadness, but it seems really happy and unifying, and it's neat to meet because other people in other countries, because I feel like you get isolated, and as sometimes as Americans we don't travel as much as we probably should. So it's neat to meet people that are well traveled.
Yeah. Well, speaking of first, this is also the first time I've been out of the country, so.
John didn't have a passport 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So if any of you that have gotten passport, I don't know how in our country getting a passport can be a long process. So that was scary.
Yeah, I also, the reason I didn't have a passport until 3 weeks ago was because I wasn't notified that I was going to be here until 3 weeks ago. Yep. So that was a mad dash to try and get everything together and ready to go. So I'm beyond grateful to be here to begin with, so. But yeah.
Yep, so now some people that are listening to this episode, because they'll see celebration in a hashtag and they'll see celebration, so they might listen to it. What was your introduction to Star Wars?
So my introduction to Star Wars goes all the way back to probably 2003, 2004. I remember it vividly. I was sitting at my grandparents' house, just scrolling through channels, and I saw The Empire Strikes Back. And I remember the exact scene. It was when Luke was in the rafters of the carbon freezing chamber, and Vader cuts the tube, and Luke turns around and sprays it right back in his face. That was my introduction to Star Wars, and then really just ever since, it's been 24/7 nonstop Star Wars. So, and then what about you? What was your introduction?
Well, I'm old, so 1977. It was probably late because there was a $1.50 theater near where I lived, so we probably went to the $1.50 theater, and I saw Star Wars that summer, and it changed my life because I lived with my grandparents, so that was the first movie I ever saw where someone didn't live with their parents, and it wasn't really a big story point. There was those after-school specials that, little sad boy was sad that he didn't live with his parents and stuff. But this was the first time where he just wasn't considered normal, and that's just what hooked me into Star Wars. And that, on top of seeing Sand Troopers, the Sand Trooper I loved from the beginning, C-3PO and R2, all that, it just hooked me. And then I was just Star Wars all the way through. 1980 came out, Empire Strikes Back. I always say this, I was mad at Billy D. Williams for being a traitor to Han Solo. Even though I know at the end he was going to help him, I would not play with Lando figures. I was mad at Lando for taking Han. He stole Han's ship. He stole his dog. Everything.
He probably stole his cologne too.
Everything. So I was just super mad at Billy D. Williams for when I was a kid. And then it just went through. And then when my kids were born, Star Wars was just, we just kind of raised them. Zoe saw all the movies before she was 6 months old. Because when she was babies are kind of, you can't really do much. You have to carry them around and stuff. So I would have Star Wars on, And then Safi and Zoe both were Jawas with the 501st when they were 4 and 6. And Safi, who's up front here, is Fennec right now. She wouldn't get out of the costume sometimes. Like we went to a troop one time in the winter. It was freezing cold, and we had to go to a Christmas party or something afterwards, our New Year's party. And we have a picture of her playing piano in that because she didn't want to take the Jawa costume off. And then Zoe went in. Zoe went on to do Sabine Wren, and a few other costumes. Safi went on to do a Tusken Raider. Safi tends to do the more evil characters, So, and then Safi does 000. Anyone know who 000 is? The black C-3PO. So she does it 000, which we couldn't bring here because any of you guys that were flying, you're very limited to what you can bring, and that would be about 6 suitcases full of stuff. And so Star Wars, it's determined what both my girls study in college, graphic design, and to be a filmmaker. And for me, it's what gets me on those bad days, gets me through. Like if I'm working on a car, and especially when I was younger, I always picture myself Han Solo working. As an adult, when I say younger, I was an adult thinking this. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but that's just got me through like a lot of that stuff. And then I've met my friends. I met you through Star Wars, Marty, through the 501st. Pretty much all my circle of friends are in the 501st or into Star Wars, and if they're not, they'll eventually be. If they hang around with me, I have a librarian in the school district I work. I'm a teacher. He's now in the 501st because I was like, hey, you really like Star Wars? Check this out. Every faculty meeting we had, and now he's a member of the Maryland Garrison. So that's where Star Wars came into me. I mean, and then I'm so happy that we can celebrate this and not, I don't want to say persecuted, because I know there's people persecuted in the world for serious things, but it is nice to be able to have a fandom and be able to have it tattooed on your body or wear clothing or just celebrate it. I'm a 50-some-year-old guy that dresses up like a stormtrooper a lot of weekends. And I can do that and not be looked at by most people like there's something wrong with me. So I think Star Wars is timeless. Like you can put New Hope on, and it still makes the same impact. And from New Hope to the Mandalorian to the Lego Star Wars to what's the new show with the little kid stuff?
The Young Jedi Adventures.
Young Jedi Adventures, which was enjoyable. I like the Star Wars. I like the holiday special. I like. I know.
You better be careful saying that one too loud.
Well, but listen, my preaching to the holiday special, all I ask is before people get super critical, watch all the holiday specials of any type in the 70s. I'm not saying there's a lot wrong with it, but it's exactly the same if you watched Captain and Tennille. I'm trying to think of all the others. Sonny and Cher, all those, they had the same type. So, I know there's stuff. I made my kids watch it, which is probably child abuse. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I met tons of people through Star Wars and Celebration. I wish I would have really knew what Celebration was. I know this sounds like a commercial for Celebration, but we're really not doing that. But I wish I would have, I knew Celebration in 99 or whenever the first was, I knew it was happening, and I knew it was always happening, but I never really thought it was for me. I never thought either, I don't know if I didn't think financially I could afford it, which, I didn't know if, it didn't really register to me that what it would be like. And once I went, I was like, oh man, I'm really stuck now, because I'm probably going to go as many times as I possibly can. So, that's my Star Wars.
Well, you say that, and I can relate. You say that Star Wars gets you through your week, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with that. They kind of feel the same way. But since we started doing our podcast every week, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It doesn't matter what's going on. I look forward to watching whatever's new. Right? For us, it's 3 a.m. when it comes out. So yes. Your Wednesdays, ours start at 3 a.m. with the new episodes of whatever the new series is. But I love getting up at 3 a.m. and then waiting all day to hop on with you and Ken and whoever we've got coming on. I mean, that is the highlight of my week every single week, except for this week. This is a little different, but
Well, and I like Star Wars podcasts in general. Like, I mean, I like ours, and I like yours, and Zoe's. But that's what gets me to work. And, you know, I don't know how many, I would assume some of you listen to podcasts if you come to the Holonet stage. But there is such a variety of podcasts, and you can find that person that has that voice for you. And almost all podcasters that I've run into are accessible. Like, and I don't think, and I would say on this podcast, on this stage, if you were thinking of starting a podcast, or not even thinking, but if your kid talks about Star Wars a lot, help them start a podcast. Help get them in touch with other podcasters, you know, and just build a community. That's what we really stress on my podcast. Well, it's not mine, it's the Inflatable Falcon, and I know John does on his, and there's a whole bunch of other podcasts that do that. And everybody's, we're just people, like, that's what I think people like. Because we all know what it's like to meet a celebrity at Celebration. You just have to have a little bit of extra cash, and you get a couple seconds. But there are people that I have listened to for podcasts over and over that you run into at Celebration, and they'll talk with you, they'll have lunch with you. You know, it's just a neat fandom to be in.
Yeah, and not to sound like a human commercial, but I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Ken's podcast. Our
yes.
co-host from the Inflatable Falcon. He does another fantastic show that he does his own. It's called The Rambling Star Wars Fan. So if you like just random, off-the-wall Star Wars facts, you got to check out The Rambling Star Wars Fan. And then The Rad Batch is also another one of Ken's shows. It's called The Forces Behind Star Wars. It's 5 friends. They're on what, episode 31?
30-something. I think they've been doing it a couple years. They started pre-pandemic, I believe.
But yeah, so if you're looking for other podcasts to listen to, The Forces Behind Star Wars and The Rambling Star Wars Fan are fantastic.
And Star Wars Geek Girl.
And of course, Star Wars Geek Girl.
But yeah, and if you're looking to start a podcast, be a guest on podcasts. You know, the joy of, you know, everyone has a different take on Star Wars. And it's not hard to start a podcast. Like, I know this isn't a podcast about starting podcasts, but maybe it should have been. Like, compared to Zoe, we started 8 years ago with Zoe's podcast. Mm-hmm. And when we were coming to Celebration like this, I had a laptop, I had 2 tripods, like the bag was just weighing, because we didn't know what equipment we would need, what they would give you. And when she recorded her podcast at home, we needed 2 computers, we needed Skype, and now Zoom is like a podcaster's dream, and so many other software that are free. Mm-hmm. That anyone can start a podcast anywhere. Because John lives in Ohio, I live in Pennsylvania, and Ken lives in New Jersey. And we do a 3-person podcast every Wednesday with almost no problems, except for Anthony when he's a guest. We have one friend that when he's a guest, it messes everything up, but I think it's...
Or Matt. It tends to be...
Yes.
Whenever they're the 4th guest, when they're the 4th guest, it just never works.
From New Jersey or New York. We've had 4th guests from somewhere. But yeah, it's pretty neat. It's neat with podcasting and what we can do. And it's neat that Star Wars has really promoted podcasts. Lucasfilm has from years ago. They just always promoted the podcasts and video feeds and fan films and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, even look no further than this. I mean, you've got 2 different rooms with, you know, a slate full of shows, you know, and those aren't Lucasfilm produced shows. These are just fans, like everyone in this room and everyone listening at home. Yep. You know, I don't work for Lucasfilm, so they're doing a great job to promote, you know, the individual creators now.
Yes. And they opened 2 stages, which is nice. So that means they got enough people to do 2 stages. So, yeah. So
let's start, because the biggest thing that you and I have in common is costuming.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Mike and I met because of 3D printing and costuming. He saw my Mandalorian armor on TikTok. That prompted us to start start communicating back and forth about that. So what got you started in costuming? Because I know you've got a bunch of costumes, even if they're not your own.
Right.
But
well, I saw Sand Troopers in '77, and I just liked the Sand Trooper. It was, I don't know what I liked about it. Maybe because I was like a dirty little kid, like my clothes were always dirty, and I was like, hey, I could wear that. I don't know why I liked it. And then I would say the 90s when the internet started, man, this makes me sound really old. But when the internet was just starting and you had bulletin boards and all that, I found the guy that was making Stormtrooper armor. So this, I would say 94-ish era. And so I went on his website and I said, hey, how much is Stormtrooper armor? And he said, oh, I need your address. And he sent me a photocopied picture of some Stormtrooper armor, a Vader helmet, and all this stuff he sold. And by the time I got it in the mail, his website had been shut down. Because back then, like Lucasfilm would shut down anyone making anything, they would, and so they had weird names. You would have to look up like white spaceman armor, white anyway. But I wanted armor since then. But it was expensive. It was $700 in 1994 dollars in US dollars. So that was, I don't know what the conversion rate, because $700 is still a lot of money now, but 94 it was a lot more. So I just kind of put that on the back burner, and life, came, went to school, had kids, and we moved. And I'd always talked about getting Stormtrooper armor, and then I found the 501st. And again, it still seemed unattainable. I saw all these guys with beautiful armor, and we bought a new house. And I just remember my wife coming to me, because we had been saving for a house for so long that you don't buy anything. And then she said, why don't you just buy that Stormtrooper armor? And anyone that's been married, if your spouse says, hey, you should buy Stormtrooper armor, why not? So I went and I bought a kit. I bought a Stormtrooper armor kit. I put it together. And my first troop was a Make-A-Wish for a young man. He was like 6 years old. And they did a prom for him or something. And they didn't tell him. He liked Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen signed a poster for him. And then we were all going to march out and deliver it to him. And my first troop was like that. And I think I cried in my bucket the whole time, and it just hooked me. And then I got my girls' Jawa costumes, and we just started doing the costuming. Hooked me because when you put a costume on and you do it right, no one knows who I am, because I'm a teacher, so I'm in front of kids all the time. And if you want to be reminded about being old, teach middle school. They'll remind you. If you're over 19, you're like old. But when I'm a Stormtrooper, taking pictures and working for charity, it just made me feel good. It remembered everything I liked about Star Wars, and then the kids got into it, and it's the same thing for them. I got to teach them how to do charity anonymously. Like, we would do charity events, and no one knew who you were, and you just took your costume off and you just disappeared. You didn't do it for praise. You didn't say, look at me, put my name on a little card. You just did it, and you disappeared. And I think that's what kept me into the costume. If I would have just built a costume to come to cons, which there's nothing wrong with that too, so I don't want people to think that there's, but for me personally, I don't know if, that was in 2007. I don't know if 2007 when I started, I would still be here in 2023 building costumes and building costumes for my kids and working with costume people. That's my introduction to Star Wars costuming. And there's other ways to get into it. Like, some people are just good at art and just like to see the costume. There's nothing wrong with that either. But for my personal self, I think that's what kept me in it. So.
Well, you got lucky, because Safi and Zoe also like to do it, so
yes.
they give you a reason to stay in it.
Well, that's true too. I do feel proud that my kids like it, because if your kids don't like costuming, that would be difficult, I think. Then you just have to get new kids. No.
And they're easy to replace, right?
Yeah. No, but I also never neglected my kids due to costuming.
Mm.
So we did it as a family affair. And if you would ever hear Zoe's story about it, she would say, we were driving there and Dad said, when you're in Jawa, you can't talk, you can't take your mask off, which I did say. I just didn't say it quite as mean. But my kids did so wonderful. When they were Jawas, you would never hear them speak. You would never see them lift their mask. That's what just kept me in costume. And my wife has always been supportive. She's not a costume person, but she's always been there. Like, when we do events and they need someone to help out, she would be there, which is way harder than being in costume.
The thing is, though, with their costumes, you put them in the best position to succeed, because you built a very high-quality costume, which he'll never tell you, but Mike is one of the best craftsmen when it comes to putting costumes together. And
I think I just look at him.
Point in case, sorry. But the costumes you built for them, at least going just back to the Jawas, I mean, you wired it up so they could make the Jawa noises with the speaker and the iPod Shuffle.
Oh, yeah.
So they seemed like Jawas. It was easier for them to act like Jawas. And, of course, you're cracking the whip, telling them, make sure you're no talking.
Well, and Safi's not a big talker, but if you want to meet a costumer, if you ever see any of my TikToks or you ever see 000 online, he's a black C-3PO. It takes 45 minutes to bolt her into the suit, which again is probably child abuse. And then she cannot take the helmet off. She cannot lift the arms up. She cannot get out of the suit. Like, she's in. So if you're claustrophobic, it's a terrible suit. But if you know C-3PO, she only has a little mouth hole to breathe and little eyes. But she will be in that costume 6 hours, doing like, we have a picture of her bending down to shake a kid's hand who was in a stroller that couldn't get out of a stroller, and she'll do that for the first kid at hour 1, and she'll do that for the last kid, 6 hours later. So I lucked out in the sense that my kids love it, but my kids respect like the people that they're doing it for. So.
But you also you're so gracious, you're so kind to build them like these super high quality costumes. And how many costumes do you have right now?
I got one.
You've got one.
Well, but 000 took 14 months.
True.
So, and that's tough when you build a suit in 14 months because kids grow. And so when you're starting, you're like, oh, I really hope there's not a super big growth spurt, but I lucked out. But it is that comes down to Star Wars being in the family, so it kind of looks like I'm a good guy, but I'm still doing Star Wars stuff. Like if I have a bad day at work, I have a garage full of equipment to build Star Wars things. So I can take it out on that and not take it out on my kids or my students or my wife. I can just build Star Wars. And again, meet people like you and come to Celebration like this, which is so nice. And everyone is nicer than the next. Like I hope everyone here is having a good experience. So I did ask anyone's first celebration? First celebration? Oh, okay. What do you think so far? All right, yeah, there we go. Now, are you worried that you're going to have to come to every celebration now?
Oh, I already know I am.
So remember tomorrow or Monday when they announce, have your phone ready to book that hotel. So at least in the States, you can cancel your booking like up to the week before. But.
Yeah, no, you warned me ahead of time. I always say I love and I hate Mike for one thing, because he always puts me into positions of, oh, I know I'm not going to be able to get away without doing this more. So joining the 501st, all right, well, I know I'm going to have more than one costume at some point. Going to Celebration or there's a local convention near us called Steel City Con in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, and
have you gone to Steel City?
Oh, I go I didn't go last weekend.
Well, right.
I had to save my money.
Yeah.
Right.
I go every time.
And I got him hooked on Steel City.
Yep.
It's only 2 hours from.
Yeah.
We're from the same. We live in the same town.
Yep.
Oh, do you really?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's weird that do you know each other?
He used to work with my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say that would be so crazy that you live in the same town, but you meet the first time in London.
Yeah.
He's doing this, and then I had to make sure I got it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, his wife is one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. I worked with her at the first theater I worked at.
Oh, okay.
And everyone was so sad when she left. So, but tell Robin I miss her. I love her so much.
I will, thank you.
Yes, and no, I mean I know what you're saying about all that stuff, like forcing you to do things. But I told you up front.
You
told
warned
him,
me.
I said, look, once you go, you're gonna be stuck. And the same with the 501st. I mean, I would recommend. People hear bad things about the costuming group. I would recommend anyone that's, especially if you have family, if you have father and son that's interested in Star Wars, reach out to the costuming groups, like whichever one. There's like you have 501st. So if you're one of those people that are like detail oriented, like you want to look at a picture from the screen and you want to make sure you have every screw in the right place and build a costume, that's the group for you. If you're probably slightly more relaxed than that, but you still want an accurate costume, Rebel Legion would be, And they're just as strict as the 501st, but they're slightly more laid back, you know, which kind of makes them the rebels. And if you're one of those people that like Star Wars, but you don't want to be confined to rules and you want to make that really cool costume, join the Mando Mercs. They're like the biker uncle of the costuming groups, but they do some. Have you seen some of the custom Mandos? And they have rules. Zoe's a member of the Mando Mercs as well. They have rules where you can do the strict costuming, but they also just have guidelines so you make a costume that looks good with the other Mandos. And then if you're none of those, then look into the droid builders. So the droid builders they build droids from 000 to R2-D2s. And if you want to start, like the droid builders, I always tell someone, build a mouse droid. You can build a mouse droid for the price of an RC car and join the droid builders. And the droid builders are one of the few groups that actually work with Lucasfilm. Like they will hire droid builders to work their droids now. Where now the 501st has been on The Mandalorian, Season 1 Mandalorian. All those troopers at the end were 501st members and stuff like that. But they're not paid, they're just like extras and stuff. But so Lucasfilm has embraced all of these costuming groups.
And weren't the clones in Obi-Wan, weren't those?
I think some of them were, yeah, because when they made the Attack of the Clones, there's no physical armor. Mm-hmm. The 501st, some guys designed armor, because that was all computer generated. So they actually designed wearable armor. And then when they went to Obi-Wan, Lucasfilm didn't have the armor, so they got their local chapter of the 501st. I think that's the clone detachment. Mm-hmm. And if you're just bored, look up the costumes, the amount of costumes. Yeah. So what would be, if money's not an object, what would be your costume to make?
If money's not an object, my next costume's Vader.
Okay.
I'm a little short, but I'll get
got lifts, man. I'm working on Vader, so I got lifts too.
But it's specifically Revenge of the Sith Vader. So if you didn't already know, costumers, when you're in the groups, you kind of get molded into this, and then you start to like really pick out which costumes which and the differences between them. So, but specifically Revenge of the Sith Vader I just think that's the nicest looking Vader.
And I think for those that aren't in the costuming groups, and this is what's kind of neat as a Star Wars fan, I get mixed up with names. Like Ken, he knows every name and planet. Like you said, I get the names all mixed up. But the helmets, like I think Vader, there's 10 different helmets. Mm-hmm. So if you watch Star Wars, all the Star Wars, there's 10 different Vader helmets. And they're all slightly different. And I'm building an Empire Strikes Back Vader. I'm learning that there's 3 different chest boxes. Each chest box, I didn't know that. I mean, I thought I was like knew all the Star Wars. So I'm changing all the. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get this Greebly and that Greebly. I had to get a special inner robe sewn differently because I picked the one that has a different inner robe. I was like, oh, really? But that's the kind of neat stuff. I knew there was a whole bunch of different stormtroopers. I didn't realize there were so many different Vaders.
See, the funny thing about Star Wars is there's always somebody who knows more than you.
Yes. There's always, it's like Phantom Menace. Thank you for coming. It's like Phantom Menace where there's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
So,
yeah. What about you? Money's not an object. What's the next costume?
It would be probably, I'd have to money for a gym to lose a little weight, but it would probably be one of the Boba Fett's. I'd probably be ESB.
Oh, come on. You really going to give up the red gauntlets?
I would smash them, probably. I can't even wear a watch, so I would not. It would probably be the Boba Fett.
Any specific reason why? Or just Boba Fett looks cool?
I'm old enough to get the Boba Fett mail order. I got the mail order Boba Fett, and I remember waiting for it in excitement, and I remember playing with the Boba Fett. That was my figure.
I got a mail order Boba Fett too, and they started the vintage collection back in like 2008. Does that count?
I got the one where we didn't even know who he was. That's fake fan stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh wow.
No.
Yeah.
But I just like the look of Boba Fett on Empire Strikes Back. In Jedi, before I was into 501st, I thought he looked exactly the same. I didn't, I was fine. But I just like that. I like when my favorite scene with Boba Fett is when he steps behind Vader in the dining room or whatever. Mm-hmm.
So the next step for us, I think, we've talked about this before. What about life-size props? you building anything? You know, obviously here we see you've got the TIE Fighter, you've got Rey's speeder and the AT-AT and the AT-ST, the hover tank. I mean, there's a ton of life-size props here. Are you...
Well, I have two that are on the work. We have a book in the garage that Marty and I write down our ideas. We're building a life-size stand-up of a stormtrooper.
Okay.
That then a child can stick their head in, and we have an extra set of armor, so we're going to build it up so a kid can stick their head in and look like they're in armor. And then if we put two stormtroopers on the side to hide the edges, it'll look like he's in armor. That's the closest thing to a big prop. Next to that, I always said I wanted to do a biker scout,
The speeder bike?
speeder bike. But after seeing that turret, I was thinking, how could I make that it could be taken apart and put in a minivan to go somewhere? I was like, that could be made as panels. I was in my head. I was like, okay, I could like get make fiberglass thing that bolts together. So that makes me think now that Hoth turret would be pretty cool. So how about you? What's your big?
I've always wanted to build the Jedi Interceptor, specifically Anakin's, the yellow from the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
You're going like super big prop.
Oh yeah, go big or go home, right?
Yeah. I need a bigger garage to put that one. So.
Yeah. So this is you already said this is celebration number 4 for you.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all 4, what is the biggest memory that you have? What is the best thing from any of the 4 celebrations?
Wow. I think it's a toss-up because the first one, especially when we met the Perales family and Zoe did our first panel, that was a big one. But then when we had 000 built, 000 was such a hit at Chicago.
Go on and tell the story about the first the unveiling of 000.
Yeah, so 000 again. Now this took us. I think it took us an hour to put it on or more the first time because I think we forgot a piece or something. We had it almost all the way on, and we realized we forgot a piece. So and then we were at. I think we're at the Hyatt in Chicago. So there was just a crosswalk from the lobby of the hotel across to the convention center. And the first time we took her out, it was 2 hours to get her to the convention center because people were stopping for pictures. Like Safi would take 2 steps pictures, 2 steps pictures. And before we even got out of the lobby, every employee of the hotel wanted a picture with her. Like not even the Star Wars fans. They were just like, like the one cook came out or something like that and took a picture. So it took 2 hours, and then we were on the floor for about another 2 hours, and it took another 2 hours to get back. So then after that, we decided, well, look, we're going to put a Star Wars blanket around your waist, take your helmet off, and then we would just find a random person, hey, can you help us put this helmet on? And because it was tough on her, because when was that? 19? 2019, I think, or 18? 19, I don't know. So that was a while ago, and so she was still in high school. So, anyone go to Chicago? Okay. And the Chicago one freaked people out because there was a lot of Southern California people that had never seen snow. Like they were running outside. There was people in snowtrooper costumes that were so excited to see snow.
I've seen snow a ton of times, so I like things like Orlando.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, I didn't have to travel that far to get snow.
Yeah. But yeah, but I could say, like, I think of every celebration. I'm sure I'm going to remember a bunch of stuff about this one. Like, I think of the Anaheim one, where it was just me and Zoe went. Like, we met some really cool people. And then, like, yesterday, Matt Martin did a panel here with Zoe, which was really cool. And then doing this panel. I'm excited. I'm hoping that this is an enjoyable podcast for the people. I'm hoping to enjoy it for you guys. You're at least getting comfy seats. So.
Yeah, you can take a load off for a couple minutes. So.
But, yeah, I mean it all just has good memories. I mean, if you think about all the good stuff, then there's always going to be bad stuff, like stuff that's uncomfortable. Like I know the panel thing gets everyone worked up. But that's just part of it. Like, then just go find, if you don't get in a panel, find something else. I don't know anything about autographs or photos. I'm sure that's a stressful thing for people. And I hope that every year it gets a little easier for people.
Yeah. Thankfully, it is a Star Wars convention, so if you don't make it to the panel you want, there's plenty of other Star Wars everywhere else. So.
And my only like I do wish sometimes they would have it in the summer. Like I know it's hotter, but it would help people take off easier for like if people are in college or kids that are you can bring your kid. Like a lot of people can't take their kids out of school unless they like have a educational note or something like that. So that would be, but that's still most celebration problems are still way better than real life problems, I think.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Now, do you have any plans for next celebration, depending on where it's at? Do you think you got any big costumes you're going to try and make before then?
I eventually would like to bring my own costume to celebration. like so.
Have you never brought a costume?
I think did we take my TK to Chicago? I can't remember. I might have taken the TK but never wore it. I'm trying to think how packed our car was. Our car was pretty packed. But I have just as much enjoyment watching my girls in costume. So I'm like, for the next celebration, I hope to have a C-3PO done for Safi. In a perfect world, I would have a C-3PO done for Safi and another protocol droid done for Zoe, because I would love to have both my girls and protocol droids. It would just be cool pictures. And after seeing that blue droid that was in the last one, that would be because I'm learning the paint methods to do that kind of tinting. So I would love to have two of droids together, but at the very least, C-3PO, K-3PO, or something for Safi claims C-3PO. She won't let Zoe have C-3PO. So.
Yeah. I see the gears turning in your head on how to make that blue paint.
Oh no, I'm going to ask Chris Bartlett what blue tint, because I'm pretty sure it's a chrome droid tinted blue. It's the same method to use for C-3PO. So as soon as I find the right color, I should be able to mimic it. So I just got to make the suit.
I'll just be happy when we see your Vader done finally.
Yeah, my Vader. My Vader would be one that would probably be easier to take. But if it's in Orlando, depending on the time, I could drive. If we can drive, I could take a suit. I'm not going to fly with a costume that could be really damaged.
Yeah, I remember the deadline for that you set for yourself was December.
Yeah, well,
So,
what are you going to do?
What is it, April, and it's still...
Yeah,
need a belt buckle.
You've only known me for a couple of years. Okay, I got projects that are probably as old as you.
Right, but at least we talk consistently. Like
That's
we talk
true.
every week. So
That's true. Yeah, I have a '67 Volkswagen that I started when I was 19. So,
I've seen it.
So it's I'm slowly getting better at that. I haven't taken. I'm one of those. Star Wars makes me take on new projects, so I haven't taken on a new project since January. Like usually I add to my list. Because if you're a costumer, you just see a new like I'm watching all these Mando mercs, and I'm just like, no, you can't build because I have a Din Djarin started. I'm like, no, you can't build a custom Mando, because I'm seeing all these. Have you seen the Tusken Mando? There's a Tusken Mando. It's all built up like a Tusken. I just saw the Twi'lek Mando helmet with the Tusken. I mean, all the Mando mercs are really cool, but the ones that are here today they did the march and stuff. So we walked in right when they were doing the march. And we're talking about Beskar Bucket, so we should probably talk more Mando.
Yeah, we probably should. But has everyone seen the newest episodes of The Mandalorian?
Not the new one they just showed.
Right, not the one they showed here, but the...
Oh, you're not caught up? Okay, we won't spoil it for you. Okay.
What are you doing here? You should be watching The Mandalorian.
What? I'm questioning your parenting. No, I'm just Well, me and Zoe get up early. We get up early on Wednesday, and it's not always the best, but we get up early and try to watch it before work because, I don't want to be spoiled because it only takes one student to yell out something. Yeah. So.
Yeah, see, I don't have that same luxury because my dad refuses to watch it until Saturday. So I told him, like, you're on your own. I'm watching it before you, and I just won't say anything.
Now, he's forgetting to mention, too, just like I got you in, his father joined the 501st.
Yep.
And almost a year ago today, we were on a podcast, and we said, hey, John, do you think your dad will ever join a costuming group? Nah, my dad's not on that. Now his dad's in the 501st.
Now
with,
listen.
With an improved costume.
Hold on. You're leaving out important details.
Okay, well, I always do that.
Up to this point, my dad was very supportive of the costuming for me, but he had never been to a convention. He never had any interest in going to a convention. He had never even thought of being in costume.
And your dad's my age. We're the exact same age.
They're the exact same age. So at that point, I was like, I can't even get him to go to a convention. How am I going to get him, strapped in an uncomfortable costume all day? So, and then I think he did an episode of the Inflatable Falcon with us, and then you pestered him.
I just strongly encouraged him to look into it.
So, and then I had bought a Director Krennic costume to do for Halloween, and the tunic was it was a really nice quality. Mm-hmm. Everything else was just kind of okay, but I just bought it for Halloween, and then I never ended up doing anything with it. And then he was like, "Well, what about that costume you've got sitting in the corner there? Like, what's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a Krennic." So, and he's got the short, nice, high and tight hair. So he threw on the tunic. It miraculously fit him because we're not really the same build. And then I ended up. Granted, he's in the 501st now, but don't let him fool you. I put that entire costume together.
Oh,
for
I
him.
know. But his dad. So when you submit costumes to any costuming group, it is very rare that you get in the first time. They'll usually say, "Hey, this button's a little off," or "You need to do some stitching." And his dad got in the first time, first go.
Yeah, that still irks me to this day because so unfortunately I didn't make my Kylo Ren. I love the costume. It bothers me that I didn't make it.
There's a picture of it. It's right there.
But even I got kicked back. I bought it from
the guy who approves the costumes is the one that actually made the costume years before.
Yeah, so I bought it from someone, and then when I submitted my pictures, the guy who made it for our mutual friend, who made it for Marty, he was the same guy who put all of the soft goods together.
Yeah. So,
and he still kicked me back, even though everything was obviously 501st quality. My surcoat was wrinkled, and I needed one more lift put in my shoes to be just 3/4 of an inch taller. So
I didn't think you were allowed to kick you for height. But.
Well, it wasn't height. It was
the length.
It was the length of the tails on the coat.
Right, which now sounds picky, but I will say when you see all these costumes together, you appreciate the nuance that they put into it. What do we got? How much time we got?
We got 17 minutes.
17 minutes. We have any questions? There's a few people. Any questions? Come on, we had to say something that you're like, what are they talking about? What do you think? Questions? None?
We're all over the board. He's vegan.
Oh, your buddy does 000? Oh. Well, you know what's nice? So hers is cast. So ours was built by a bunch of parts we found. We cleaned them up, made cast. But, yeah. So what's nice is you find there's a gentleman in the I want to say the New York State 501st that does a 000, and he's a big guy. Yeah, and he's as tall as a Vader. Like if he stands next to, but he has done that. He just upsized the files. Yeah, so it's a tough one to wear. You do Palpatine? Oh, okay.
Very nice.
Yeah. You do all these now, or this is? You do a Chewie? Did you have Chewie on? Oh, okay. And what stilts do you use for your Chewie? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, and you do a Vader?
God, I wish Marty was here.
Yeah, I'm jealous of all you guys because I'm doing a Vader, and the amount of effort it's taking to do the lifts part. Because I'm 5'10", so I have to lift up like 5 inches to make it look right. So that's really cool. And now, are you going to join the 501st? Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Are you already in the 501st? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's good. Now, where are you from? Oh, so that's the UK game? Is it? Oh, okay. So, that should be fun though. That's like a lot of, yeah.
Yeah,
How
those
did you-
those Wookiee costumes, those are no bueno. I would not. I envy those who, or I do not envy those who put the Wookiees together with the hook and latch.
Oh,
Now, how different was Chrysanthemum versus Chewie? Because I know the facial structure is a little different.
Yeah, the nose is different. It's got more flower in the nostrils.
Mhm.
Scars, eye wrinkles, eyebrows. Its lip curl is different. Teeth are different. Scars.
and he's shorter, right? Is he shorter than Chewie?
I think it's 6'10".
Okay. Our friend, when they showed it at Anaheim, they had the costumes on display. Yeah, and our friend who does a Chewie was there looking at the chrysanthemum, and he turned around, and the guy who wears the suit was there, and he got to meet him. So and yeah, Chewie, I mean, he's a lot more bulky than Chewie. Yeah. Yeah, you have to go to the gym now. How about you guys? Any costumes in the future?
Got to be honest, it's not something we've ever really thought about until this weekend.
Yeah, well, that,
It is the most fun you will ever have. I promise.
Got the car parks in Cordelia, just contact people about how wonderful you had to dress without coming in. Just sort of tell us about what you did before the first and what was your costume.
well, I've found, and I'm sure there's always an outlier, but I found all the groups are always helpful. You know, like even because there are people we've helped that have no desire to join, which I completely understand. But the costume, the making is the same, whether you're in or out. Like, I try to have a costume party at least once, a build party at my house at least once a year, and we just get together and like we started building Tusken Raiders from Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, if you like music and you're big into the sound and whatnot, you can always be a Bith musician. You know,
Yeah,
the Cantina
yeah.
Band. That's an approved costume in the 501st,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's always something to consider.
Well, and they had, I always tell people there's like 3 things to getting into the costuming. It's time, money, and skill. And we all have different levels of each of those at different times. 'Cause, you know, for me, like in the summer when I'm off school, I have way more time, you know, so I can do more and I can make up for maybe some of my lack of skill. And everyone that's helped me, like I didn't know how to make a mold or cast 10 years ago until I made my first helmet. I made her Ketsu, a Ketsu helmet from Star Wars Rebels, very bit part. Now that first helmet weighs like 4 times heavier than it ever should because I didn't know, but you know I've gotten better at it, and it's just fun. You know, it's just fun stuff to learn. I never would have thought I could do half the stuff I did without the help.
Even if you just want to do it, like just to go to a convention, even if it's not to join the groups, I still highly recommend it because it's very fulfilling and very gratifying putting a costume together and then going and showing it off at like celebration or just like a local convention. It's some of the most fun you'll ever have. I mean, my Din Djarin Mandalorian is nowhere near Garrison quality or Legion quality, but I still love wearing it. And it's so much fun being in costume, especially when you can see like the little kids, like the knee-high kids, when they look up at you and their face lights up. That, you know, because at that point you're that character. You're not a middle school teacher. You know, you're not a podcaster. It's, you know, you're Kylo Ren. You're a stormtrooper. You're Din Djarin. You're whatever. So if you haven't costumed, if you haven't like done any of that before, do it one day. But you know, before you die, it's always that should be a bucket list thing. It's honestly just because it's fulfilling and it's fun.
Well,
So
and 3D printing has come a long way. And what's really nice is if you have school-age kids, that's a skill to learn with 3D modeling and stuff like that. Like I just talked to we know some friends that work in the industry with Lucasfilm. They just hired a guy to help them do the 3D printing, and he's a much younger guy who just knows how to 3D print. You know, and I was talking to the guy they hired to do it. He doesn't even know how to do the software part. He just knows how to run the printers. So imagine if we have these kids coming up now in middle school and high school that are learning how to actually do the modeling. And it's a usable skill, not only in a hobby, but it's a usable skill in all of these industries, not necessarily just film, but like some of the manufacturing. And it's just a fun skill to pass on.
And the learning curve is not nearly as steep as some people will lead you to believe. I mean, I picked it up. It took me a little bit to kind of understand what I was doing and where I was going, because I didn't really have anybody to show me what to do. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's not plug and play, but it's pretty close. As long as you know how to tune the settings a little bit, you can start working your way towards, big, really nice looking prints.
And I came from the molding aspect. Like I can do a little bit. I can do the molding pretty well now, but 3D printing was new to me. But here, Safi, hold your helmet up. So this was a misprint that we just decided to paint it and put together, and then her Fennec Shand costume is bought from Cosplay Scott. So that's less than $100 costume. So which in pounds is about $75. So,
yeah. Any other questions? Anything else? Any comments? Again, he's vegan. We talk about that on the Inflatable Falcon. So.
Well, if you want to hear where we start with Star Wars and go all over the place, then you listen Wednesday. What's your question?
Well, it was interesting. You said you're a teacher. I'm an academic librarian.
Oh, okay.
And so I work at Kent State. And so I was just interested, what do you teach? Because you said that you worked with your librarian.
Yeah, so I'm a computer science teacher. So years ago, our computer science department merged with the librarians in our county. So the librarian does a lot of Star Wars stuff, with it. In my classroom, my class is somewhat based on Star Wars stuff too. Like I try to take, I have nothing but Star Wars quotes on my wall, and mainly to inspire kids, but also show those kids that if you're into something weird, not that Star Wars is weird, but I don't want someone to feel like if they like Harry Potter or Marvel or something like that, it's okay. You don't have to just be like everyone else. But yeah, and then with the computer science and then with the library and the 501st, if they have a library event, they contact the 501st and we will show up in force to support that library event. So,
Where's the librarian? And I've told her to contact the 501st.
Huh? You have or haven't?
She has contacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they'll do like a comic book day at her library.
Yep.
And then they get the 501st because I told her, the charity work and everything, and they're so good about that, and I love how you said, John, that when you see that character, the stormtrooper, whatever it is, that there's a stormtrooper, that's a real stormtrooper. So it's pretty fascinating.
Well, it's the closest to being invisible, in a good way. Like, because we'll do an event all day where people are handing you their kids to take pictures with, and you're making all these people smile, and then you go suit down. Those same people that just moments ago were waiting in line to get a picture, they have no clue who you were. It's a surreal feeling, and it just, and maybe it is selfish on my part, but there are weeks that charity that I do that event, that charity, I might be helping them, but I might be helping myself internally more than that. Because I just need that break from, whatever is going on that week. So I can't speak highly enough of just how much fun it is for me. And we've done troops where we've done in Pennsylvania. We have the Mummers Day Parade, New Year's Day. We've done the Mummers Day Parade in 15-degree weather with 19-mile-an-hour winds. We had ice from our breath forming on the outside of our helmets. And I was shivering for like 3 days later because Stormtrooper armor you can't really put any warmth in that. But it was so much fun to just wave. And we did a 4th of July parade in Philadelphia. It was so hot that the glue on my armor was falling apart. From giving kids high fives, I had to hold my arm because because the E6000 was just melting because it was like 102 degrees there. So, like, you know, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, if she does put in for an event, tell her to message me on Facebook, and I'll let our squad leader know, so that way I can be there and I can make sure I'm there. So, because I need to see Robin again. So, I had to get that out there.
Any other questions? I mean, I hope this was a fun panel, or at least you got your feet rested. And again, if anyone reaches out, if you're, you know, we have two young men, and you know, you might have a voice in the Star Wars universe. You know, you never know, and it doesn't have to agree with what everyone else says. You'll find your niche.
Well, I think we're about out of time anyway. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
you
very
guys so much.
everybody. Sorry if I talked too much on your show,
I
John.
don't know. Look, when I started this show, my main goal was I don't want to be the focal point. I want to put a spotlight on other people. I want to make sure that, you know.
I wouldn't have agreed to your show if I knew that.
Well, that's why I didn't tell you. But yeah, so I want to make sure that everyone else, you know, who does great things in this community, they have, you know, they've got, you know, an hour to talk about, you know, what they do, what makes Star Wars special to them. Hell, I can talk all the livelong day about things that I do, but I don't want to hear about what I do. I want to hear what other people do. So that's why I started this show. So the cards you guys have, they all have a QR code on the back. If you Google the Beskar Bucket, I've got a website, I've got an Instagram, and then the show itself is on all podcasting platforms for the most part. So if you want to hear me more, I'm sure Mike will be on it at some point again. But we've got the Inflatable Falcon too.
Yeah,
But,
reach out if we can help in any way.
Yeah, we're always an open book. So we're
And
just
if you
a
want to do
message
the
away.
show.
Right? Yeah. I'm always open to guests. So
Thank
but
you, John.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right. And here I have more cards. I didn't want to hone in on John's show, but I have Zoe's